All right, so here's the latest project. I picked this up. It was free. Guy was just getting rid of it. And it looks like a really older Simplicity mower. I don't know a lot about them, but I thought it was really cool looking, like the paint job and everything. It's got to be from the late 70s, early 80s. If anybody knows, put it in the comments. But it looks pretty grimy and gross. It's just been sitting for I don't know how long. So it is a 4208. I think that's an 8 horsepower Briggs & Stratton. It is an electric start, which is cool. So first things first, it's basically locked in gear. I got to figure out how to get it off this trailer, but before I touch this thing, I just want to get the pressure washer out and just blow all this grit and grime off. So that's what I'm going to do now. Then we'll get it inside and see if we can figure out how to get this thing going. Okay, so after closer inspection, it looks like to me, I'm going to try to get you back in there. It looks like right in here, I don't know if you can see that, but this bar right here runs, I think, the parking brake, and I think it's welded solid. So I'm going to have to see if I can get in here with a crowbar or something. And so I'm just going to, oh, that moved. Hang on. Ugh. Ah, we got it. Great. Okay, let me set up the camera and we will get this thing on. Alright, well that looks a lot better. So now you can actually see the graphics and they're in really good shape. Couldn't even read that stuff before. It's probably hard to see with the reflection, but now you can. Everything looks really nice. Just years and years of dirt from sitting. All right, so I'll dry this off a little bit and then we'll bring it inside the shop. Okay, so we got it pulled inside here, and you know, after pressure washing it, it looks really clean. I found this, it was in a rental property, I guess, where the owners were trying to clean it up, and this was left outside for how many years, I don't know. And just, you know, we grabbed it and brought it home. So you're basically seeing it the way I'm seeing it, but it does look really clean. Let me take you around a couple of places and show you what my first thoughts are on this. Okay, so the first thing I see here is the carburetor. It's missing the air box that should be sitting right here, but that's the first thing we have to address. I don't have an air box, you probably can't get one, but you can get clamp-on style motorcycle filters, so I think that'll be okay. Let's head back to the battery and I'll show you that. And so I've got the cover raised up here and you can see this battery is here, and I put a set of jumpers on it with the ProLogic charger, and it is completely dead. It registers 0 volts, 0%. We're going to see, I don't see any kind of safety like operator presence on the seat. There's no sensors, so I guess this is an early enough model they didn't have those. I guess what I'm going to try to do is, first things first, let's just hook up this jump box and just see if any of the ignition system is actually working that will turn over the engine. Spin it all. We're not going to spin it very much because we don't know what's in there, and I'd like to pull the plug out and put some like 2-cycle fuel oil mix to try to lubricate anything before we actually try to fire it. But let's just see if the wiring is intact. So let me put you in the tripod and we'll give that a shot. Okay, so I'm gonna plug this in. Make sure that's on. All right, here we go. And roll on 1. Whoa. Okay, it works. So that's all we're going to do. That means the wiring is intact. That's great. Let's pull the spark plug and give it a little bit of 2-stroke mix for the oil and turn this over a little more. See what happens. Doesn't look too bad. All right, so we've got a little 2-stroke mix here, just for the oil. I'm going to just put it in there. Just give it enough to let it lubricate. I'll loosely put this plug back in there just so it doesn't all shoot out. We'll leave this off because we don't want it to start. Okay, and contact. Okay, so that tells us obviously it's a crank at this point. We haven't tried to start it. Battery is completely shot, but the wiring seems to be intact. The the keyway here, the ignition circuit, the crank circuits, so we can kind of deduce that no rodents have got in there and cut it, or anybody's been poking around and pulled something off that they shouldn't have. So I think we're in pretty good shape. Let's check for spark. Okay, hopefully you'll be able to see that. And contact. I don't know if you can see that, but it was sparking beautifully. So that is a really good sign. It feels like when I turn it over, it definitely has compression. It's obviously not going to feel it now because this is out, but I haven't tested the compression. We can certainly do that, but I probably need to get a helper because my gauge doesn't spin in. You have to push it, but it feels like it's got compression. So I think we ought to just give it some fuel and see what happens. What do you think? That's what I think I'm going to do. Let's try that. All right, let's give it a shot of the good stuff. And let's put this back. I don't really like the way that's fitting. It could end up being an issue right there. Anyway, we don't need the airbox. We don't even really, we've taken the carburetor out of the equation right now. So let's just see if it'll fire. I don't think my jump box has got enough to do this for whatever reason. Maybe it's going bad. Okay, this thing is running. That is great. So we're going to have to address that carburetor now. Let's get to work on that. Before I take this carburetor off, I just want to try to blow some of this dirt off. I've gone ahead and put a paper towel here in the throat so we don't get anything in there. This whole thing's going to need to be cleaned really well anyway, but I just want to get the bulk of this off just so nothing goes down actually into the valves or anything like that. So I'm going to just blow it off here. So watch your eyes. So now that we've cleaned off everything, so there's no chance of it, dropping down into the valves or anything, we're going to go ahead and remove. There's two bolts, one here and one under. I'm also going to use a big flathead just because I don't want the chance of stripping these out. And we're going to have some linkage that we need to remove, and we're also going to need to remove this supply hose, which the tank doesn't have anything in it right now. So we'll pull that off in just a second. I just want to see if I can break these loose without any trouble. So, oh yeah, those came off pretty easy. Let me see if I can break this other one off. Yep. So it's loose. So let's go ahead and pull this off, and then we'll get these out and remove the linkage. Get something to help me pull that off. I really need to invest in one of those hose grip pliers from Knipex or something like that, because these things tend to be a kind of a pain. These little picks are great. They're great for radiator hoses. The problem is if you do it just wrong, you'll punch out through the other side. So it's one of those things where you got to kind of be careful. You're just trying to break the seal just like that right there. And then this should, oh, there we go. It should come right off. All right. And yeah, that's water, not gas. So this is completely dry. It's probably from the pressure wash the gas got in it. So now that this is disconnected, we just need to go ahead and finish knocking these off. And then we can take off the linkage. Yeah, we're free, just the linkage. Oh, nope, there's a bolt right back here, so I got to get that one. Let's see, is that glare bothering you? Yeah, it looks like it's actually going to be a little 5/16. So I'm just going to... I didn't mean to do that. I pulled that one off from back there. And then there's the spring. Okay. And it's free. That is nasty. All right, so let's get this over to the bench and we'll just see just how bad a shape this is in. It looks like it's going to be pretty bad. There's yeah, that's water and maybe some stale gas. So anyway, let's get it over to the bench. So I got this over here in the tub on the bench, and it's pretty nasty. It was full of, I don't know if you can see that. It looks pretty gross. It's mostly just dirty, rusty water. So this is going to require a lot of cleaning. Let's go ahead and pop the float bowl off and see what it looks like. And I believe this is going to be not only I believe this is an integrated jet. So let's see what this looks like. Yeah. Oh, that's not pretty. Oof, and there's a pretty rank smell too. So have no idea if this float is going to be okay or not. So this just basically needs to be pulled apart and gone through. So I'm going to start pulling this apart, and then we'll see how bad it is here. We need to start cleaning all this out. The float should come out. There is the needle seat. Try not to lose any of these. Interesting. This doesn't have a little rubber tip on it. And that does not look great. Alright, so let's just start seeing if we can. There's probably the main jet right there. There's all kinds of crud dripping off of it. So we just start taking some of this stuff off and start cleaning it up, and then see if this thing's going to work at all. So we want to clean a lot of this up, and what I'm going to use is a carbon choke cleaner like this gum out. This is what I always use. It's really good stuff. And a lot of people actually end up using like a brake cleaner, and you don't want to do this because it will dry out the gaskets and just different things like the needle suit and things like that. So you don't want to use this. You want to use this because it's got different oils and things in it that will allow the gaskets not to dry out. So whenever it's a carburetor, especially when you're going into interior parts, always use carbon choke, never use a brake cleaner. So anyway, let's just start to clean this up a little bit. Put your goggles on. Okay, so now we've got it fairly cleaned. Cleaning off all this outside doesn't really do anything to help it run. It's just so nasty working on it, and when you go to like disassemble it and get into the jets and things like that, you just don't want all this gunk on it that'll fall in there. So I've got it fairly cleaned up, and now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and remove the jet here. Just anything you can disassemble you kind of want to. There may be something here under these, and we just want to blow through these with the carb cleaner and then with some compressed air, and then I'm just going to put it back together. So let's get started on that now. In these jets, what you can see, I don't know if you can see this, let me see. Down in here, it's got like a slot for a flathead screwdriver, and you can just reach down in there and twist it out, but you got to be careful because these are pretty delicate, and if you're not right on there, you can really bugger it up, and then you're not going to be getting it out at all. So I'm just going to go really slow. In fact, I might even look for a little bit wider. You want one that doesn't have a lot of play. So let me go do that and see if I can get this thing out. Okay, so here's a little bit wider one. It fits a lot better. I wish it was a little better than that. But I'm just going to try to be really delicate. That will not budge. So, I mean, it just looks like the threads in there are just super corroded. So, there's not really a great thing to do at this point. I can try to get it out, but if you I mean, you can already see, I don't know if you can see that, but I've already, scratched it up a little bit. That doesn't matter because it's, it's the outside of it, but it may be best just to try to spray down in there than to try to get this thing out because it feels almost welded in there, with corrosion. And there's just, especially like on the float bowl, there's just a lot of corrosion. You can actually see all the rust right here on this gasket that just, was from sitting water in the tank. So I think I'm just going to blow through this and we'll reinstall it. And if it doesn't work, or it runs really poor, then we'll be forced to try to do that. And maybe we could soak it in penetrant overnight or something. But I'm not confident enough right now that I'm not going to strip that thing out or damage it. So, and I have no idea how hard this would be to get. It's an odd carburetor. It's just super odd looking to me. So, this is an old mower from, I don't know, late 70s probably. And, if we mess this up, then it probably ain't going to run at all. So maybe it's a long shot, but maybe we can just blow down through there with carb cleaner and compressed air and it'll be okay. We'll see if we can disassemble anything else. Yeah. So you can see, these jets here, these little holes. So we can clean this one up. And then here's probably one too, but it's also, anything that's got a spring on it, probably want to count the turns to give you a baseline as to where it was when it was last running. So, this one turns, so I'm going to have to count this coming out so I can remember. But basically what we're going to try to do is disassemble all these things as much as we can, blow through them, blow them out with compressed air and reassemble it and see if we can get it to run or not on this carb. We may not be able to and we're done here. And, if you can't get a replacement carb, you're kind of out of luck. But anyway, let's keep going forward and see. See, there's another little tiny jet or something in there. So we'll blow down in there and clean that out too. So essentially, when you're breaking a carburetor down to clean it, especially on something like this, you're going to have these smaller pieces, which are, your jets, your needle seat, your float, things like that, that are going to need to be cleaned. And then the other thing you're going to have is your body, with all the places and, that they fit. So this is pretty, and really the goal here is just to clean everything internally that you can't see. Blow it out with the carb cleaner and you blow it out with compressed air. When it's done, all these pieces. And then if you don't need any gaskets or anything like that, or like a diaphragm, if it's a, like a pulse diaphragm, then you can put it back together and, technically it's rebuilt. But that's all we're looking to do here. We're looking to clean the gunk out because 99% of the time when something won't run, especially a small engine, it's going to be, one of these passages is blocked. If you're having problems with, surging, things like that, it's 99% of the time, all the problems are going to come from something like this. So let's just clean these up and then that'll take care of it. Hopefully. There are all kinds of passages in this, really small, hard to get in. So this is what I'm talking about, making sure they're clean, and this is a really good demonstration. So I'm going to put this as best I can on this hole here. And now you watch what this does. Hopefully you can see that. It comes out like a sprinkler in all the holes. That's what you want to do. All right, so everything's been cleaned out, and this is about as good as we're going to get it, without soaking it in some kind of sonic cleaner, which I don't have. The only thing that bothers me, everything came out real nice, and all the orifices seem to be free. The only thing that really bothers me is this right here. There's so much rust, and every time I clean it, you're just going to get a little residue off. There's really no way to get that off except to, maybe soak it in Evaporust or vinegar. And I'd really like to see if this thing's going to fire up now. So we'll probably pull this back off and do that. But I think for now I'm just going to leave it and give it a shot and see if it works, because there's no real point in soaking this and spending a couple of days on this if there's something wrong internally with the carburetor or something like that. So let's go ahead and put it back together and hook up an alternative fuel source, and then we will see if we can keep it running and not just fire up. All right, so let's get this thing back together. First things first, want to make sure we hook up the linkage, because you're not going to be able to do it if you forget that. Okay, so I've got all this in here. I'm just going to finish buttoning it up, and then we'll figure out what the next step is. Okay, so here is the setup. I've got an auxiliary fuel tank running down with clear hose so I can see the flow into the carburetor. We're bypassing the original tank because it's got rust and water and all kinds of things in it. We're going to have to take that off. So I guess we'll just hook up the jump pack and see what happens. All right, let's do it. Contact. All right, we are good. So what you saw me adjusting was the idle circuit jet right here. So when the mower is in a lower position, it was, I think it was running really rich. So, but anyway, I've been playing with that. So that's what you saw, and it smoothed out. And then when I went up and you raised it to a full throttle position, this was the mixture screw under here. These old Briggs & Stratton have a mixture screw right here. This is the main mixture control right here. And I actually think it was running a little lean, so I was backing it off to flow a little more fuel. And so now you see that it's nice and smooth, just like it came from the factory. So we are good. It looks like the only thing we need to check is the transmission. So let me pull you back a little bit so you don't get hit, and then we will see if this thing can move or not. Gas tank is out, and it's actually a plastic gas tank. I wasn't totally sure, and the rust that I'm seeing down in there is from the actual. It has a fuel sending gas cap that shows you the level, and all of that rusted. So I think the best thing to do, especially since this is plastic, is just maybe disconnect this the bottom hose here, and then just go out and just flood it with water till we get everything out of it, and then we'll come back in and dry it, and then rehook it all up. I don't plan on taking fuel lines off, so I like to put them on basically semi-permanently with these. And they're pretty easy to use. You just put them on, and then grab the ear, place it where you want, and tighten it. And then it's pretty permanent unless you cut it off. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend some time doing all this. Also picked up a new universal fuel filter. And so I'm going to set all this back up, and then I'll meet you back over at the tractor where we put it back together. All right, so I don't know if you can see in there, but that is a nasty rat's nest. So I can't just leave that there. Let's pull that out before we reassemble stuff. All right, that looks a lot better in there. So that's the way this goes in. I'm just going to give it just a little bit of grease just to aid getting it back on and hopefully getting it back off for somebody in the future, because this was a battle to get this thing off. So here's our fuel line, here's the new filter. Let's first put our ear clamp on. Now the key with these ear clamps is you don't want to go too hard, so I try to only do it with one hand. If you have a ton of grip strength, be careful, because you just don't want to crush everything in there. If when we hook it all up and it's leaking a little bit, we can always tighten it up. All right, and we're good, and that looks really sharp. So I think we're ready to back this thing out and fill it with fuel and let it fire. All right, so let's put a little bit of gas in it here, not too much. Just want to. I see it flowing in the fuel filter. No debris or anything. It flowed right in and filled up, so I think we're good. It's a nice peace of mind having a new filter on. Okay, so I've got it pulled out here and got the jump pack on it. Let's start it, and then we will see if the transmission engages forward and reverse, and then we will check for the engagement of the blades. There's no really point in cutting anything because this tire is flat, so it wouldn't look very good. So let's give it a shot and see what happens. All right, guys, that's it for this one. She runs, she moves under her own power, and the blades engage. So just need to slap a front tire on it, and this one is ready to flip and on to the next one. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching.